in Perth. Ben, how are you?
Very well. You can tell it's a big fight when the voice of Melbourne's northern suburbs turns up and adds a little bit of class to the promotion. So thanks for coming, Mickey.
I appreciate that, Ben. That's very, very strong words there. Love it. Before we get on to the fights at Perth, you were in Japan with Jason Moloney. Disappointing result. Came so close in that 12th round. You were there ringside. How was it?
Yeah, it was crazy. It was one of those moments where as an Aussie overseas you sort of lose all professionalism. We were jumping up and down. We got ourselves into the front row of that venue with 60,000 people there, and there was a group of us with Sam Goodman, Dara Foley, TJ Daheny who'd won earlier on the card, as well as Peter Matrevsky and a couple of others who were there, and we all got right into it and we're really backing Jason, trying to get him going. He's said since, and I think it's pretty accurate, that he just didn't get going early enough because, as we saw, if he had another probably 30 seconds, he would have stopped him in that final round. And if he did stop him in that final round, it would have been a truly legendary win for an Australian boxer internationally, probably right up there with what Jeff Harding did against Dennis Andre. So it had the capacity to be something special, but as it turns out, really disappointing for Jason, one of the nicest guys, not only in boxing, but in the world, really, to lose his world title in those circumstances in Japan.
Yeah, well, hopefully his brother Andrew can have a bit more luck on Sunday. He's fighting Pedro Guevara. What do you make of that fight, and how do you see that going? It's a tough fight for him.
It is a really tough fight. It's a really good fight. It could be the fight of the card. Guevara was fantastic today at our open workout. He's really got the crowd behind him. He said he couldn't speak any English to me, but he's got a lot of English and he's got a lot of personality, and he can really fight as well. He had a split decision loss to Carlos Cudras, and it was meant to be Cudras coming out, and then he was replaced by this guy. So he's at the top level. It's a tough fight for Andrew Moloney. I was interested to see the betting prices, and Moloney's a really heavy favourite, but I think it's a toss of the coin sort of a fight. Andrew, he's been there before. He's been a world champion. He's had some great moments, but he needs to win, and he knows that because he was brutally knocked out a couple of fights ago. People thought that might be the end of the road against Nakatani, but he's got back. He's won since then on one of Will Tomlinson's shows. And now he really needs this win, and I think all of Australia hopes that he gets it because we love the Moloney twins. We want one of them to be a world champion at all times, if not two of them, so this is their chance.
Yeah, also on the card we've got Lucas Brown at the twilight of his career, but...
That's very kind, I think, the twilight. He admits that though, Lucas. He's 45 now.
Yeah.
But he pointed out to me yesterday that he only started boxing at 32, so he's really only 13 in boxing years.
Exactly, so that does affect him.
Yeah, so, for sure. He's a great guy, Lucas. He's been to the top of the tree, gave us all one of the great moments in recent Australian boxing history against Ruslan Shagayev in Chechnya when he climbed off the canvas and stopped him. And he's had some disastrous moments, of course, through the course of things, but he's always been entertaining. He's a polarising figure to some, but it's a good fight. Hemi Ahio, he'll come to bang. He said one of them's going to sleep, and I think that's accurate. It's a weird situation on Sunday, so that fight's actually after the main event. So there's two fights after the main event. There's that one, and also the Joe Goodall-Django Opalou fight. So because of the way the schedule is, 6 fights in total. The fourth of them is the main fight, Lomachenko and Kambosos, then 2 more heavyweight fights after that. So it's a weird day, a long day, but it'll be an exciting day.
Yeah, so do you think Lucas has that win that he had, like a similar one last time we saw him on the...
Against Junior Farr.
Against Junior Farr?
Oh, geez. Well, he'd be hoping that. That's the plan. I did go through his record, and every time he's fought against a Kiwi-based boxer, he has either knocked them out in that fight or knocked them out in the rematch. Chauncey Welliver was the one who he had to have 2 goes at. But yeah, he's a big puncher, and that's not gone anywhere. If he catches Hemi, then he could knock him out. And we saw Hemi is fallible because he was beaten by Django Opalou on Haney Kambosos too. So it's a fascinating fight. It could be hideous, really. Like, it could be a terrible fight. You never know with those guys. They might lie all over each other, but it could be one of those moments like what we got with Lucas Brown against Junior Farr. So heavyweight boxing, the punch is the last thing to go. All the cliches go into that one, but I don't know what's going to happen, but it'll be entertaining, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely unpredictable one. Looking at the main event, you got Lomachenko and Kambosos. Both have had kind of mixed sort of momentum of late. with both fighting Devin Haney and but this version that we're going to see of Lomachenko, do you think he's still got it to where he was at, like when he was at his peak, when he was known as the guy who was just like making everyone quit?
Well, he looked like he still had it against Haney. He was very, very good against Haney. I had that fight a draw. A lot of people had Lomachenko winning. Plenty had Haney winning. It was a very close fight. There was no robbery there, but it was a close fight. And I think Lomachenko was understandably disappointed because he had moments in that fight where he looked so good. It's hard to line things up now with Haney, isn't it? Because he's gone out and been beaten up by Ryan Garcia, but then Ryan Garcia is pop positive. So who knows how you line all these things up, and styles make fights and all that sort of stuff. But Lomachenko looked really good there, and he seems fresh. He seems like a young 36-year-old. Clearly had a lot of amateur boxing. Has only been pro for a relatively short amount of time. Hasn't taken a lot of punishment. Seems to be focused. Seems to be very motivated to win this belt and to get back to the top of the tree, get back into those top fights. It's just what that loss and what he saw as a robbery has taken out of him. That's the only sort of variable in where he's at, I think. But if he's at his very best, nobody, including George Kambosos, probably can beat him. So, it's fascinating to know which version we get, but it looks like it's a very good version.
People forget that he's actually still got the war in Ukraine going as well, so surely that affects him one way or another, either positively or negatively, right?
Yeah, well, it's got to be something that hangs over the head of all Ukrainians. Like it's a hideous situation, and he has positioned himself on like in the military for a point. So yeah, it has to be an emotive factor for him. Whether it's a motivation though, whether he feels the Ukraine within him and uses that in the fight. I was interested to see that he had the Ukrainian flag with him in the ring at the open workout. Not something he always does, but he's lent into his heritage here this week, which is really interesting to see. So it's a terrible thing that's going on, and hopefully it only affects him positively, at least this week.
How much does size play into a factor? Because we saw Kambosos struggle with Haney, who's tall, rangy, uses his jab, but you looked at the press conference when they had that epic long stare down. George's actually quite bigger than him. So does that help George? Is George more competitive in this fight? How does that go?
It's hard to say, but the one thing about Lomachenko with regards to size is he has been in with bigger guys forever. He could probably still be fighting. Well, I don't know. I don't know his diet, but he could probably still be fighting at featherweight if he really wanted to. He could go that far down. You would think, given his body makeup and how small he is. He's a little guy, so he's used to fighting against bigger guys. George, he probably would prefer to have him a smaller guy like that. He doesn't want to have to get past a long jab like he couldn't against Haney. See you, Lucas Brown. The other variable is that he's a southpaw. We saw how much George struggled with a southpaw against Maxi Hughes in his most recent fight. Very different southpaw. Maxi Hughes and Vasily Lomachenko, they've only got one thing in common really, is which hand they write with. But he did struggle, and he struggled badly. He lost that fight. He got the cards, but I don't think many think that he won that fight. We're glad that he got the result because it set up this, but. That is a variable. That's a tricky thing. There's a few things up in the air.
So I guess that goes towards your prediction. Does that mean you think you're leaning towards Loma? I think most people are, right?
Well, I think I haven't looked at the prices in the last couple of days, but I think George is at least $5, if not $6, off the stick to win this fight. So to make a prediction that Vasily Lomachenko is going to beat George Kambosos is not a bold one by any stretch, but that'd be the expectation. Yes, he should be too classy. He should be too good. He should move too well. He should be too slick, too experienced, and just too good a boxer. Really, that's what should happen. That's Lucas Brown again revving his car. But George caught lightning in a bottle against TFMO Lopez. We know he can do it. Can he do it again? Who knows? No one's going to take him lightly again, like TFMO Lopez clearly did. But who knows? Who knows? He gives himself a chance because he tries so hard and he's tough. But Lomachenko should win the fight.
And lastly, fast forward to the week after, I believe it is, probably the biggest fight in heavyweight boxing in a quarter of a century. Last time we had an undisputed heavyweight champion was 1999.
Bob Arum needed you there yesterday. He was trying to find that stat.
Really?
Yeah,
yeah, November was. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Give him the day.
Yeah. How do you see that fight going? That's like at this stage of their career as well. Both they're veterans now. They're not fresh anymore. Fury has abused his body, whereas Usyk has kind of. You assume he's looked after himself. How do you see that fight going?
There's nothing wrong with abusing your body, for starters. Let's get that out of the way. But when this fight was first announced, I thought it wouldn't happen, and I still don't know that it's going to happen because it's fallen over. It's been meant to happen so many times. It was meant to happen again. There was a cut. It's scheduled again now. I would not be surprised if it doesn't happen. But I thought Fury would win the fight from the time it was announced. I thought he's too big, fundamentally too big, and he uses his size so well. But the closer we get, I think the factor that you just expressed there, the fact that he doesn't look after himself and Usyk clearly does, I'm just leaning towards Usyk more and more. He's so slick. We saw that against Anthony Joshua, and I think people forget that Anthony Joshua had such good moments in the second of those fights. He looked really good at times, and he had Usyk where he wanted him for just a period, but couldn't capitalise. But he's so good. I just think that he's going to be at 100%, and we don't know that Fury is. Clearly, he's worked hard. He looks great in photos at the moment, but. There's one man who's a thorough professional. There's one man who is just so instinctually brilliant. So I'm leaning towards Usyk, but I wouldn't be surprised either way.
And we also know Fury does tend to struggle with more slicker, smaller guys.
Yeah.
Some get dropped by Steve Cunningham. So
yeah, but that was 45 years ago.
Yeah.
So, but I agree. I take your point. That's a big factor. That you think he's going to be, because he's so much bigger, that's going to help him, but maybe he does struggle with a guy who's so much smaller. I don't know, but Usyk's just so brilliant. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if Fury does what he does. The Fury, he almost got beaten, but maybe he did get beat by old mate, Ngannou, who then got decimated, as he should have, against Anthony Joshua. So, if you're looking at form, if it's a horse race, you're going, well, that guy can't win. That's why they fight the fights.
Fury's always someone that strikes me as he kind of fights at his opponent's level a bit. So
yeah, I think so, and maybe he fights at what he believes their level to be as well. I think though he would know, because he's a boxing man. He would know how good Usyk is, so he would be working really hard. But then it may not happen. Who knows? And there's so many exciting things on the way as well with Jai Opetaia and Briedis. That's a great fight. Jai has gone on in leaps and bounds since the first of those fights that I was so fortunate to call, when he broke his jaw on both sides and reached into his soul and scored a victory on points in a true fight of two halves. And now they're going to do it again. I think it's a better Jai Opetaia, and Briedis hasn't fought since then, and he's now 39. So I think Opetaia should win that fight, but that's a great fight as well, and there's so many more.
Surely he doesn't break his jaw again, right?
Well, they reckon that it heals stronger, so it's less likely that it's going to break ever again. But what do I know? But that's what I did. Jeff Fennick and I were flying back from a show somewhere, and we bumped into the specialist who, I think the guy who did the surgery, and he was talking about it with us, and he said, once you have it, it's very unlikely you have it again. It was interesting. Actually, I was talking to the doctor on that night of the fight, and because Jai had broken it on both sides, and he was explaining how that worked and what it meant. And I said, is that common when you break it on one side? Is it weaker on the other? He goes, well, I don't know. Usually if you break it on one side, you just stop doing what you're doing. And he didn't. He kept fighting and broke it on the other side. So, I don't think that'll be an issue. But what could be an issue is the fact that Briedis hasn't fought since, and he has. And he's just gone to another level in terms of his intensity and his purpose and
mindset as well.
Yeah. He's a furiously angry man. It's crazy. He's so passionate. I did a thing with him, a podcast the other day, and he's fired up. He's really fired up, and he's mean. He's nasty. So I think he'll do well.
Looking forward to it. Looking forward to calling the fights on Sunday. Thanks for your time, Ben.
It's a pleasure, Mickey. Great to have you here, mate.
Thank you.
Cheers.